Hey guys, and welcome to a new episode of Take the Throne, where we here at Take Three recap and talk about the new episodes of Game of Thrones that are going out right now. And we took a week off because we had a lot of stuff going on with real life. But we're going to talk about episode 3, episode 4 today. It's going to be great. We got a lot to go through, so we're going to get right into it. But we have a great panel joining us. Unfortunately, Sandy couldn't make it. And we are really sad because I believe that he liked these two episodes. What he could see of episode 3, he liked them pretty good. But we do have returning to the panel Cody Newberry, who hopefully we won't fight too much. Cody,
Yeah.
how's it going?
Going great. Pretty much how I summarize it is episode 3 was meh, but I liked it. And episode 4 was freaking awesome in my book. So I really enjoyed it. So we'll discuss why on those topics. But yeah.
Awesome. And also joining us is our resident expert of all things nerd and geekdom, Robert Parker. How's it going, Rob?
It's going really well. I'm really happy to be here. I have takes. They are not all positive, but I do think that these episodes, especially the end of the end of episode 4, have started to push me in a direction that I'm still hopeful for the rest of the season. I'm still optimistic of how it's going to go, but these last 2 episodes have been a little bit of a disappointment for me.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk about that because while I personally have really enjoyed the last 2 episodes, I do understand why people have disagreeing opinions, and I'm not thrilled with every choice they've made. I don't think these last 2 episodes have been my favorite, even of this season, but at the same time, I still really have enjoyed where they've gone with them. So I can't complain too much, but I do understand where people are complaining about certain aspects. But we will get into that. But we're going to start it out with episode 3. We're not going to do a full recap because at this point, you probably heard everything there is to hear about recaps of episode 3. But we are just going to give our opinions on some of the bigger controversies or controversial opinions that have come out of episode 3. The first one is just that it was too dark. Don't blame the showrunners for that. It's not their fault. They filmed and created a beautiful piece of entertainment that was beautifully lit and purposely shot to put you into the middle of a battle. And HBO compressed the stream and effed it up really bad to where people couldn't see it at all. So I didn't have that problem, which lucky for me. But I do know a lot of people did, and it really, I think, impacted the reception of this episode and maybe even the next episode. Once people are kind of mad and petty about things, they just continue to be mad and petty about things. But I want to get everyone's opinion on, did the stream, was it bad for you? Did you, have that issue? And do you think the impact of HBO compressing down, the show itself had any impact on the reception of the past 2 episodes? And we're going to start it out with Rob. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I had no problem with it, like the darkness at all. That was like, of all of the things of these last of Battle of Winterfell that people could have complained about or could have had gripes with, that's the one that so many people focused on. That bothered me a lot, because I did have genuine gripes about the storytelling of the episode, but like at the same time, it's a battle that it's called the Long Night. That's what the White Walkers are bringing, the Long Night. It happens entirely at night. It's in the deep north. They bring a blizzard. Like, of course it's going to be dark. It wasn't too dark for my TV. Like, where I was watching it, I could still see everything fine. Like, it wasn't like, Battle of Pelennor Fields and Return of the King, like in the middle of the day bright, but it was enough where you're absolutely right. It sets you in the setting of the battle. It really makes it tense. And I thought the setting was actually done very, very well.
I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, I know some people who didn't even have the compression issue were still complaining about it being dark and confusing to watch. And honestly, what did you expect? It's a battle at night in a blizzard. Like, you got what you signed up for, honestly. But no, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really gorgeous to look at and everything. And while maybe some aspects of it that we'll talk about weren't the best, I still really liked it. Cody, I know you kind of mentioned already your thoughts, but what did you think about the stream and how it impacted people's reception of this episode?
We live in 2019, and people will bitch to bitch regardless. So I will be truthfully honest. When I first watched it, my light was still on in my living room. I didn't watch it like complete blacked out, and my wife was doing something. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna need to turn off this light because it looks a little dark to me." But I think the darkness played to its advantage because that's the confusing part. That yes, it was dark. Duh. The whole factor is it made it more claustrophobic and more hopeless with being as bleak as it was. There's a scene where the Unsullied get ready, they spear out, and I don't know about everybody else's stream. When I brightened it up, you could see it a little faster, but like right before the White Walkers hit them, they emerged from the darkness, and I thought that's perfect. That's exact. It made me because it looked like a steamroller of bodies just coming right at him. But yeah, I feel like I feel like in 2019, like people are just going to complain. Even if these episodes weren't what people lived up to or what they wanted, they're still going to have gripes because like I'm still rewatching and I'm at season 7 now. Like it's kind of my in between stuff. And I saw that like I can just imagine somebody with 2019 eyes watching season 5 for the first time and how much complaints would come. Like how much, like, oh, they're not doing that. Why are they doing this? This doesn't live up to it. I get it. We're near the end and this is going to be the final one. And we want it to be 10s, 10, 10 every time. But again, it might not be the story that we want to see or the direction that they're going. But again, I've said it from the beginning. I trust Game of Thrones to lead me in the direction that they want me to. And even if it doesn't make me super satisfied, I trust them this long. I'm not going to stop at this point.
Yeah, and I understand that take completely. I also trust the showrunners to deliver a good product in terms of, actually getting us to the end of the story. Obviously, the major plot points at this point have all been vetted through George R. Martin, and like he pretty much has said, what you're getting in the show for the most part is what is going to happen in the books. So, what we're getting is actually going to be his vision. However, one of the biggest complaints with this particular season in the last couple episodes has been the writing. People have just not really connected to it as much as some of the earlier seasons. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's nothing to back it up, right? Like there's no books content anymore to back up what's going on in the show. And sure, fine. Maybe the writing isn't, George R. Martin caliber writing right now because they're not drawing actually from the book. But at the same time, I haven't really agreed with people complaining about the writing in terms of the characters. I think that the characters themselves have been written really well the last few episodes. You've gotten a lot of character growth and them talking to each other, and I've really enjoyed all of that. And maybe all of the decisions made might not have been to everyone's liking, but I don't think the writing for me in particular has felt lazy. I will say that. Cody, what do you think about this particular gripe people have had?
I don't see it at all. Because you have I don't read the books. I don't know when it stopped and when it came, like from season 6 on. Is it season 6 or season 7 where they?
It's blended.
It depends on which arc you're talking about.
Okay,
Bran's arc that passed the books in season 4.
Yeah.
Arya's was end of season 4, beginning of season 5.
Sansa's is all. Not even close to being.
Yeah. The main stuff was like the middle to end of season 5 was where they started to like be. The whole show started to be passed.
So my biggest problem with that is, again, somebody like used to read I read the Harry Potter books and then watched the movies, and people have the gripes about the movies and stuff. These characters are the most developed characters in any source of material ever. Even the minor characters, I know more about them than I know about like certain characters in other TV shows. So the characters have already been developed. I never sit there and watch and be like, well, that's completely against of what this character has been doing this entire time. So like I'm completely against that. Like I'm back at I was at 7 for a second, but like Varys even has a moment with Daenerys at that point, and he literally just stays true to who he was in front of. If he would have cowered and been like, you know what, you're right, Queen, I don't need to bend. Like he's like, I will do it, and I will continue to do it as long as it takes. It's consistent throughout. I think the gripes, especially with 3, is it was too built up. It was way too built up by everybody. There were pictures of candles with the characters' faces on them and said, oh no, let's all say a prayer for the person that we're losing tomorrow. It was super built up, and that's fair. But again, when has Game of Thrones literally given you exactly what you're expecting 24/7? Like they put you on your head always, and that's the show. And it just didn't go the way that they thought, and that's probably maybe because because Martin didn't do it. Because if Martin did 3, everybody would be dead. I believe, like how I've heard of like his writing, but like a good
not in this case. I think that the people who died in this battle are probably going to be almost the same people who die in the books, other than Beric, who's already dead. And maybe a couple like other side characters might die, but I think the core group that you see survive are probably also going to survive in the books.
But my viewpoint is, I think people wanted more carnage and didn't get it. Yeah, and I think that's a complaint.
It's also not just built up by people; it was built up by the show itself.
Yeah,
the entire episode 2, that was all build up to like literally the entire subtext of episode 2 was, hey, shit's gonna go down next episode, and then it didn't. Not to the extent that the show had seemed to promise. And yes, people took it too far, absolutely, but the show itself also contributed to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even all the promotional material leading up to this season in general has been all focused pretty much on the Long Night in terms of what's the focus of the show. Oh, it's the zombies coming to kill everyone. All the marketing was focused on it. Yeah.
Even all of last season, it was Jon was like, I'm going to bend the knee. We all need to shut the hell up about politics. Even this entire season, they're like, politics doesn't matter anymore. Who ends up on that throne doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. What matters is survival. What matters is winning this battle. We're going to go north of the wall with the squad, capture a zombie, bring it down to Cersei, because we all want to survive. And then that didn't have a payoff for me personally.
I think the problem was that we wanted main characters or side characters to be the ones, but the truth be told, they lost a ton, especially after 4. You see all those barrel spots. They're like, they lost a shit ton in this war. It just wasn't the characters that everybody wanted to see gone because they thought their characters were already fleshed out.
Yeah, I think that the correct criticism of this episode in particular, and the stakes not being met, isn't necessarily with the characters who died. And I don't think that's the point Rob was making either. I'm not going to speak for you, but I don't think that's your point either. Absolutely. I think the point is that they have built up this particular battle so much and made almost everything really converge on this episode. And it was, it was a long episode, right? But it was still almost too short. I feel like for me, I really enjoyed this episode. I didn't really have a lot of issues. It felt like it was high stakes. I was perfectly happy with the people who lived and the people who died. But if I'm being completely honest, I would have preferred that this episode have been an episode and a half of the battle. So if they had done a 7-episode season, or heck, you make it an 8-episode season, there's enough material, where you have the first 2 episodes standalone. The first 2 episodes are great. I love them. They don't need to change at all. They're perfect. Yeah, they're so far, the first 2 episodes are my favorite 2 of the season. Episode 3 can almost stand alone where it's at, but maybe draw out portions of the battle a little bit more. You can see more of what's happening, on the front lines. You can see more of what's happening inside the keep, because that stuff was amazing. Like the stuff with Arya video game platforming through the hallways and stuff. That was really interesting. You know, you get into the crypts. You know, they could have made that. It was like a footnote, even though the episode before they made it seem like such a big thing that was going to happen. The crypts was hardly a big deal. You saw Sansa and Tyrion kind of agree they're going to go down fighting, but at the end, they don't do anything, right? Like you could have drawn some of that out more and made it more tense, and you could have done the next half of the episode, you know, starts almost where Arya and the Red Woman are talking, and you can draw that out too, where you get more of that. You can see more of the lead up to her actually killing the Night King, because I think that there's some of the stuff in there that the tension kind of depletes because it ends pretty much after he dies. Like I think if the episode had continued and you had seen everyone start to regroup, to me, like that would have really like made all of those losses and everything that happened feel so much more real, as opposed to starting the next episode with here's all the people that died and their funeral pyres. Like I would have loved to see people just coming back after all this, searching for who they wanted to see alive again, you know, freaking out and you know, just seeing the mass amount of destruction and dead people that were actually there. I think that for me would have been so much more of a payoff for the characters and everything, like mentally their development, than what we got. Not that I didn't love what we got. I thought that they did it well. I just think that it could have been drawn out more. And Rob definitely needs to talk about this because has the most to say about this. But Cody, why don't you give your thought real quick and then we'll shoot it to Rob so he can give all of his thoughts.
I think the problem is that in this episode, because I've watched it like 4 times now to try to, since it aired, just to try to like gather it. And in Game of Thrones, there's this disbelief, but I never really have to sacrifice it for Game of Thrones because I kind of understand it. I'm also a big person that doesn't think that I don't like Game of Thrones because of battles or action. I like Game of Thrones because of the plot and the intrigue and everything else. So I'm kind of glad this battle happened. And I think a lot of people's gripes is it happened too fast and it was gone and we built him over all these seasons. But I'm kind of happy that moved on because we don't have that much time, and especially how the episode went. The disbelief is how some of these characters are still alive doesn't make sense to me.
Really?
There are a couple. They could have
mean?
made when they passed by Sam and he's literally just covered in walkers, like covered, and he's still alive. Like maybe don't make it like that when you pass him by, that he should be dead and then somehow he's miraculously still alive. Like he could have just been hiding in a corner. Like you don't need to show him in a pile of walkers.
That's the confusion part. The Hound's hiding, but Sam's fighting, and like Podrick and Jaime and I don't. It does not make sense for the overall theme because from get go they get knocked down, totally demolished. But then I'm supposed to believe that Brienne and Jaime are against a wall with swords and just slicing through for. It felt like 30 minutes of the time, especially after he raises the new ones to it, and then to keep going, and then the only ones that we lose that are of big importance are Jorah and Broderick, and then who's the other one? There's one more, wasn't there?
Theon.
Lyanna.
Theon. Oh,
Theon, Jorah, Lyanna.
I don't count Theon. That was beautiful. That was freaking beautiful. He did go out suffering. But the whole thing is, it just didn't have a whole belief. Like I don't know. That's why it's mad for me because I thought the scenes were cool. I just don't fully believe everything that happened. And I know it's Game of Thrones, but it's just like, how's Podrick? How is these characters still alive in this battle that literally Grey Worm that is built for battle caves, and Hound caves, but the rest are like, nope, Samwell Tarly, kicking ass 24/7, not backing down anytime soon. Please, he's going to the crypt. That's the one character moment that makes no sense in this entire episode. He shouldn't have been there.
He is literally the only character that is in like every battle and somehow survives every battle, so it kind of makes sense. But they could have made it a little bit less like he's somehow still alive, even though he shouldn't be.
He drops it and runs to the crypt. That would have made it more believable of a Sam moment.
Sure.
Than saying, I got this. Okay. Rob, go
Well,
ahead.
okay. Rob, please enlighten us about your beef with this episode, because I know that you have a lot of feelings about this.
So my feelings aren't, oh, it's too dark to see, or there's a Starbucks cup, or that's not the kind of takes I have. I have a problem with like the stakes and the anticlimacticy. That's not the right word. I don't think that is a word. But I completely disagree that like they gave us character deaths that mean something. They gave us secondary and tertiary character deaths like Theon, like Jorah, like Dolorous Ed, like Lyanna. These are characters who have had "I'm gonna die" tattooed on their forehead for seasons. The show for me was built on the characters and the unsuspecting deaths, right? So the whole show, since season 1, episode 9, at the Sept of Baelor, when Ned died, since the Red Wedding, this whole show has been built on anybody can die at any time. This is a realism show. There are real stakes. You make mistakes, you pay for them. Things like love and jealousy and political mistakes can get you or your loved ones killed. That's what the show was built on, and that's not what the show showed me this episode. Because you're right, when Sam has 30 zombies just giving him a hug, but 2 minutes ago, he and Dolorous Ed are talking, Ed gets stabbed in the back once and immediately keels over and dies, that's not okay with me. When Jaime and Brienne are being swarmed by zombies, but one sword swing just suddenly saves them all, that's not okay with me. Because that's not real stakes. That's not what the show was built on. Like, if you don't want those characters to die, don't put them in situations where they're surrounded by 80 whites. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, those are the kind of things that bothered me. People were complaining that Arya killed the Night King. Love that. It would have been the worst fucking thing in the world if it came down to a sword duel between Jon and the Night King. That would have been atrocious. Loved the stuff with Arya. Loved the stuff. But, like, also, they talk... just a quick character moment that bothered me. They have talked for the entire first 2 episodes, both Arya and Jon and Daenerys and Jorah, everybody has talked about how Tyrion and Sansa are the 2 cleverest people alive in Westeros. Arya said Sansa's the smartest person she knows. Tyrion, obviously, from seasons and seasons, we know that he's one of the most clever people. These 2 people, who are so clever and so smart, are up against an army that can raise zombies, decide to hide in a place with a bunch of dead bodies. Like, I know that they had to have that like dramatic moment where zombies bust out of the crypts, but then that didn't even happen. Nobody in the crypts died. Tyrion, Sansa, Jorah, Varys, Gilly, Baby Sam, all survived. Nobody in the crypts died. Like, if they're gonna make that vital of an error, these clever characters making that
something should have happened
mistake, and not a single person in the crypts died. They just screamed. They just all got real scared, and then the Night King died, and all the zombies in the crypts died. What is that? Then why even have zombies be raised from the crypts?
Yeah,
like that. That is the kind of thing that frustrates me the most.
That was a big waste.
Yeah, it's a huge waste.
Yeah.
When we could have had more time with Hound and Beric Dondarrion and Arya and Melisandre, when we could have, just as you were saying, it seemed like there wasn't enough content. That's because the time that they did use was being wasted on characters like getting out of situations that they shouldn't have, or just making dumb tactical errors. Like, I know it's a show, so like you can't criticize the battle plans because they're trying to be dramatic. But like, why do you why do you have your catapults in front of your front line of Unsullied? That's pretty stupid. Why?
Yeah,
like,
no, that's right.
that's pretty dumb. Why do your Dothraki get light their arcs on fire, and then even though you're turtling, you're defending a castle, they just have them go out there and all die. Like, I understand that you needed to have a way to decimate Daenerys' army for the upcoming battle against Cersei, but like, for a show that has spent a lot of time on genuine battle tactics and battle realism, that just kind of seems stupid to me. Like, I fell in love with the show for its stakes and its characters, and the characters are still there, the politics are still there, but the stakes over the last 2 seasons have been dwindling, because every time that Jon is in a scenario where he's surrounded by zombies or is surrounded in the battle of or whatever, right? Every time that Jon is in an unescapable situation and he suddenly survives, I care less and less and less. I don't care when characters are in danger. Season 3, this battle happens, I am shitting myself that every character I love is about to die. Now, I just don't care anymore because of how many death fakes they've had, how much they've gone back on their stakes that they built up from the start.
Yeah, and I completely get where you're going through, and I do agree that they've built up a lot of the tension in a lot of these recent episodes where will they, won't they die kind of thing, where they put people in almost ridiculous situations. Like, of course, they're going to die if you're put into that situation, and yet they still live. Like, I get that. I really do. And that for me, it's an issue, but it's not one that takes away from my enjoyment of it, because I do understand that they have to create the tension, right? Like they have to create the drama in these episodes, and they have a set amount of people who have to be around for the end game of the last couple episodes, right? Like, we don't know who's going to survive this series. I would be shocked if we didn't see some really, upsetting deaths within the next episode.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, I would be shocked if people didn't, kick it within the next episode. And I know that they're kind of saving up for that because certain people have to die in those certain situations. But if you know that you're going into it and people are expecting the battles to have those stakes, right? Some of these characters who go off and live happy lives, maybe they don't go off and live happy lives, like Sam and Gilly and little Sam and baby Jon, who I totally called she was pregnant, by the way. Just saying.
I called some stuff in our season prediction episode too.
They've been really geeking out because I made the bold prediction about Arya killing the Night King, and I will not shut up about that.
I predict in our season 8 prediction episode at the very start of the show, the first episode of the show ever, I said, so yeah, they're gonna deal with the Night King for 3 episodes, then deal with Cersei for 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening.
That's exactly. It's not I mean, predictions are predictions, but I still feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and I was also right that Theon.
I think everyone made that prediction.
Yeah, that's true.
It was well worth it. Okay?
Yeah,
it was. It was a great death. It was a great death. And you know what? His story actually was really touching this season.
Real quick, I promise I'll go real quick.
Talk too much.
I know. I've been ranting. I have hot takes. These aren't really hot takes. They're just negative.
They're good takes. They're good takes.
They're good negative takes. So,
they are.
About the whole major characters dying in the next 2 episodes, right? So I'm just gonna throw 6 names out there. Theoretically, if these 6 characters are gonna die this season, right? We got Tyrion, Jaime, Brienne, Daenerys, and 2
Cersei.
more. Sure, Cersei and Grey Worm. So those are the 6 characters that they were gonna have die. And now all 6 of them are going to die in the next 2 episodes.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. So why not have 2 to 3 of them die in the Battle of Winterfell?
I mean,
that's my thing.
I could see Grey Worm dying in the Battle of Winterfell easy.
100%.
You can't kill off Dany. You can't kill off Jaime and Brienne because of the payoff in the next episode.
You definitely could have killed off either Jaime or Brienne, but you could.
But the payoff.
Okay,
You
but
get
there's
the
also
payoff in
there's also-
episode 4.
There's also now going to be a payoff with Grey Worm, but you didn't have to do that either.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
I just think if 6 to 10 main characters die in the next 2 episodes, that is really what's the word I'm looking for? It's like
Gratuitous?
That's a lot.
Overkill?
Yeah, there's a
Literal?
different word that I'm thinking of that's going
But
to come to me
there's
later. But
stakes.
right,
There-
but all of those, it's like
They-
conflagrated.
They
It's-
could have
It's congested.
spread it out.
It's congested because that means each one of those, it's gonna be like, oh well, I just saw somebody else die. It doesn't matter as much now that this person died
Yeah.
too, right? But if you'd
But-
spread those out over the course of the Battle of Winterfell 2, then you would have felt a lot more for each of them happening. Like it's just too congested. There's
Yeah,
too much
I agree with you and I don't agree with you at the same time, just because we are getting payoffs of some of these people still living. I personally would have liked it if, Jaime or a Tyrion had died, like a really, really big character had died in the previous episode. I would have really.
Okay.
But the other thing is, you look at like Tormund. Unless he shows up in the last battle, what is the point
is he
of him being alive, other than for him to have a funny moment in the next episode?
His drunk stuff was
That was hilarious. It's sad, super sad, and then also really hilarious. But like that was the only reason to keep him alive, and then he just goes and lives a happy life in the north. Like you could have killed him. Like that sounds terrible, but at the
No,
same
he
time,
should've
like
died.
he could have died.
There's more characters than just Tormund too. I'll shut up now.
Oh no, there are. I'm just giving an example. Like Gilly could have died, or Sam could have died. It would have been even more heartbreaking if
In
Sam
the
had died,
credits?
because then he has an unborn child with Gilly as well. There's all these characters kind of rolling around who are having happy endings, but it's not even the end of the show. Like, why give people a happy ending in episode 4?
I agree with everybody left behind after into season 4. When the people that are left behind, they should have just went. Like Tormund 100% should have died. I also believe Grey Worm should have died.
Yeah.
Because one, they did that's the one part of the episode we'll talk about. I don't like that at all. That happened at the end, just because it's not earned. It makes no sense. There's a lot of problems with
it's
the problem.
rushed, is what it is. It is
very rushed.
rushed.
But the problem that I have is I disagree with Rob 100%, and I understand that. And the more and more me and him become friends, the more and more we disagree. But the thing is, the man claims and he wants stakes, but now in the last 4 episodes, we're going to get the 2 worlds that don't coexist in life are now going to be at battle. So I would rather the intrigue and the sleight of hands and the unexpected deaths by certain people that it could come from, like it could come from the mountain, or it could come from other sides of where Cersei or whoever killing one of these main characters has more feeling than what the Night King or what of the army. Because the one thing that didn't happen, that I think a few theories were out there, that the Night King bringing back people that you knew, besides the Force stuff at the end of the Rising, of Jon's running at the Night King and thinking that's the way he's going to take him out. It just didn't happen. So I'm glad that we didn't lose it to like this. Because I'm one of the people that I don't care about the battles as much. I like them. I think they're cool, but I'd rather them go in like a more of a brutal, sadistic way kind of thing than
like a Ramsay.
Than the Night King taking them out.
That's fair.
Because then the Night King just rises. I just think there was no way getting out the people. I heard a lot of complaints online that the Night King gone too soon, because he built up for so long.
I disagree.
And
I disagree with that too, actually.
Oh, well, at that point when Jon runs at him and he raises his arms and everybody comes up, that's the thought in my head. I'm like, okay, there's no way that he makes it out of this alive, because if he does, then he's sitting on the Iron Throne at the end, because he's going for Cersei.
Well, and
next.
then Dany comes in, and it's like there's no way she's making it out alive, and then they both still do.
I did like the scene. A lot of people have talked when Daenerys does Dracarys on him, and he just like stands and stares.
I kind of saw that.
That's hard to hear.
Saw it coming, but liked it.
I know it wasn't going to kill him, but still that thought process of them thinking they've got this figured out so easily and that I thought that was cool, but I absolutely loved Arya killing it. And
Yeah, that was great. That was fantastic. I
Yeah.
do think that the easiest way for them to have combined something that happened in the next episode, and it's a good way for us to transition because we have been talking for about 30 minutes. Transition to the next one is instead of killing Rhaegal in episode 4, why don't you just do it in episode 3?
Yeah.
And
I just show
that's
show
huge
King's Landing with
stakes.
only one.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's huge stakes, and she puts them in danger.
Also, it's okay. Like
it's stupid.
the CGI and it was very shocking with when Rhaegal died. Like very shocking, and I love that. Like shocking that they're just flying through there and suddenly there's a freaking arrow through his neck. Loved that kind of shock stakes, but also like really like the Ironborn were behind some rocks and like the dragons were a couple miles up in the air and didn't see them. Like
what aerial? What aerial view do you have that you can't see the?
Well, there were mountains in the way.
They were in there. They were above the mountain. They were flying
you're
above
high enough
the
in the air.
mountain. And they're in the water.
My only story about that is we were watching it and we had to pause it because the baby was crying. We paused it right when she kind of turns over and is looking at Rhaegal and she smiles. And we paused it. I'm like, oh, this would be a good place to pause it. They're about to go to Dragonstone. There's going to be some political intrigue when we get there. Good place to pause it. Let's go upstairs, get the baby quiet, come back downstairs, sit down, press play. Immediately, Rhaegal is dead. I'm like, wait, what?
Mhm.
Excuse me? What happened? So we missed that shock because I pressed play and then literally dead. So I'm sitting there like, what happened? But yeah, I mean, it was a little clumsy how they killed him off. And I understand, as my husband told me when he walked by, they have to show that the weapons can kill a dragon. They've proved that it can pierce a dragon's skull because they shot it into the skull of a dragon in a crypt. They also proved that it can indeed hurt a dragon because they shot it at Drogon and it hurt Drogon in the battle thing.
And it makes
more
on the road from the
reach.
reach.
There you go.
It makes more sense to have one dragon versus two. It just has always seemed that factor.
Now, did I like that it's Drogon still? No, because I wanted Rhaegal to live. But now that Rhaegal is dead, I have amended my theory and no dragons are surviving. All dragons will be dead.
Correct.
Because there's no way that Drogon lives if Dany dies. And I still think Dany is dying because now she's crazy, which I also called. That she was just to go effing insane.
I said it last week, or said it last show. Like, she's no longer the protagonist of the show.
Yes,
and I
insane.
don't mind that they're taking that route because she has always shown, like, stuff that Varys and Tyrion have said. Like, I don't think this is a sudden change for her.
No.
I think she's going a little bit extra, probably. But
she's playing for the cheap seats,
like, her entire life has been, I have been raised because this is my destiny. I will not have my order questioned. I will kill my family. This is mine. I am the Mad Queen. And I have no problem that they're taking that route. And I love that Tyrion and Varys are smart enough to see that shit and be like, maybe Jon should be in charge.
Yeah, I really liked that interaction. I thought that it was definitely we needed it because we needed something to kind of bring us into the end game here, where I keep saying end game because I want to watch the movie again. Now. We are ending. I want to watch the movie again, but I know I'm not going to be able to, so I just keep saying it because maybe it'll start playing. We have to get ourselves into there. So he has to have people who know what's going on, who are high enough in power to vouch for him, and then will support him when he eventually does make a claim for the throne. And like I have always said, he's kind of like the perfect person to rule the kingdoms because he doesn't want to. And in this environment, if you're going to break the wheel, which is something that Dany has always said she wanted to do, the best way to break it is to have a ruler who wants nothing to do with ruling, like in the best possible way. Because Robert Baratheon wanted nothing to do with ruling other than the power that it brought with it. He wanted the power.
He didn't want to have to like micromanage a kingdom. Right. He just wanted to be like, I'm the king.
Right. But he also didn't want to do any of the work to get the correct people to manage, as opposed to Jon, who knows exactly what he's doing in terms of who do I need to get to help me rule the kingdom. He knows who the best people are. He put Sansa in charge when he left, and she was the best person to put in charge of the North when he left. Like, he understands.
This season is great.
Yeah, and he understands what needs to happen to rule. And really? You are a weird person because she has been dominant.
Her character makes complete sense with where they set 100%. It up at the end of season 6. By the end of Battle of the Bastards, this is where her character was going.
But like the problem that I always face with Sansa is, yes, she's still that snobby child that lives inside Sansa from the get-go that has a problem with everything else. The parts that made no sense in the episode this week is when the reveal, or when they're talking about the stuff near the with Bran and everybody revealing
fucking Bran. We need to talk about Bran in a minute.
Revealing the episode, revealing it, and like Arya's like, I'm not okay with her. Like, when all of a sudden you have not said anything for the past few episodes about Daenerys, and now your sister, like Sansa is like, I guess it's just how she is, as monotone as she is when she delivers stuff, or like no emotion towards anything. But like, she's falling to the same thing of what her father is just like, it's the Starks or nothing, which is not the life to live. Like, we need to be in power. We don't need to trust her because of what her father did before her. And
no, but they don't trust her because she's given them no reason to trust her.
Yeah.
I mean, she brought her armies up, but outside of that,
because of her.
Well, she brought her armies up, but she was doing it to use the North.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's nothing that she has said or done that has been like, yes, I should trust her, because every conversation she's had with Sansa, every time she's been in a setting, of power, the things she said and the things she's done have been the opposite of trustworthy. She's obviously power hungry.
It's the same thing Sansa is. She looks straight at him and goes, "We will not bend again." Like, she gives nothing. She expects it all to be. Well, it's fine to disagree. You're able to, but I'm saying the entire time is she just sits there and like goes. Every time that Dany starts to bring something or seem semi-genuine to her, she hits her back with a harshness of like,
because she knows Dany. Okay, here's the thing about Sansa. Sansa is literally the only person still playing the game without it being a physical manifestation of the game. Cersei, all of her game playing is brilliant. The stuff she's doing to outplay everyone else on the battlefield is part of the game, but now it's physical, right? Like, it's a physical manifestation of the game. Jon has never played the game. He never will play the game. It's probably what'll make him a good ruler. Whether or not he'll stay alive because of it is another question. Tyrion, dude, I don't know what's going on with Tyrion. I don't think he's playing the game. Varys probably still is, but you know what? Varys
fighting for the realm.
Both playing the game.
Yes,
they're both playing the game.
They're playing the game, but
they're not playing it for themselves.
Right. They're playing it for everyone. Sansa is playing it for herself and for her family, and she's playing it better than everyone else because no one knows she's playing it. We know, but the people around her, none of them really know she's still playing it. So when Dany comes and is pretending to be all chummy with Sansa knows immediately. She's just trying to be my friend to gain influence. And I'm going to ask the hard questions to know whether or not she's being genuine or not. And when Sansa asks the hard questions and Dany immediately shuts it down, Sansa knows she wants nothing to do with me. She wants nothing to do with the North. She wants us for, her kingdom, and that's it.
This is the only season I've actually liked Sansa's arc. Like, this is the only season I've liked Sansa's arc.
I've really enjoyed her arc for I mean,
I
her
think
growth has been really interesting on rewatch.
Yes, absolutely. But she's finally getting payoff for that growth.
Yes.
Because yes, she's spent seasons and seasons training with the best in politics, Cersei, Littlefinger, Olenna, right? She's been spending all this time, but she hasn't really had the opportunity to shine and to show it until this season. And I think she's doing a very good job of that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, she's doing the things that she thinks are right for her family, for the North. Daenerys would not have fought the battle for the living unless she knew it would win her the North.
Yeah.
She would not. She calls it
100%.
Jon's war. Unless
Yeah.
Jon bent the knee, she would not have helped.
No, she wouldn't have.
And they would not have won without her.
No.
Like, so that is very, very clear to me that Daenerys didn't fight that battle because she thought it was the right thing to do. She fought it for political gain, and Sansa sees right through her.
Yeah.
And also, Sansa knows how information travels. I think she intentionally told Tyrion because she knew that he would tell Varys.
Yep.
And, like, she knew it would get out there. Yes, she gave her word, but I think that she is thinking steps ahead where other people don't think she is. Tyrion does not think that she's that clever.
No.
And she is. Arya understands where she is. Jon doesn't understand. Like, nobody understands the mental and political level that she's at, and people underestimate her, and I think she's taking advantage of that very well this season. And yeah, I'm going to mute again so I don't interrupt because I feel really bad that I keep doing that. But
no, you're cool, man.
Otherwise, tell me we're about to fucking talk about goddamn Bran.
We can talk about Bran. We have a lot to talk about in terms of this episode because a lot went on. But yeah, I'm with you on Sansa. I think the only person who's not underestimating her at this point is the Hound. And I loved that they finally got their interaction together. And I just really enjoyed, when she said how she killed Ramsay, because, you can say what you want. There's a lot of people who ship them, and that's fine. Whether or not that's something that happens in the end of the show is something else. But when he was like, "How'd you kill him?" and she said, "Hounds," and he kind of just smiles, like, that was so good.
Also, like, Sansa isn't really like the best person. Like, I don't care good guy or bad guy. Like, I don't care if it's Ramsay. Feeding somebody to dogs to be ripped apart, like, that's not something that a good guy does.
It is something that I really enjoyed, though.
Oh, I loved it. And I think it was like the right move for her. But, like, also, I don't think people should be, like, considering her a protagonist because I don't think she is.
No, I think she's a secondary character. And I think that's a role that fits what she needs to do perfectly. But let's move on. We have a lot to talk about with this show. We can just talk about Jon and his whole arc because it really ended about halfway through the episode. He meets with Dany, and I don't know that he's necessarily seeing her craziness, but she's very, very much full crazy at this point, especially by the end of the episode. But here you're definitely seeing it.
I adored the part where he was like, or she was like, "Are you drunk?" And he goes, "No." Only love the favorite line of the whole episode.
It was pretty good. But yeah, he's definitely seeing a little bit of something because he doesn't necessarily go back on his word because he never promised Dany that he would make Bran not say anything. He just promised that he would never say anything. So technically he never broke his promise. But then, he does prompt Bran to tell Arya and Sansa about his lineage, and that leads Sansa to tell Tyrion, who then tells Varys, who presumably will tell the people who matter. So let's talk about that because I know Rob wants to talk about Bran, but we'll let Cody talk since he's been quiet for a while. So Cody, what did you think about this whole dynamic between Jon and Dany and then Jon and his family?
I already said my piece about Sansa. I get it, she's playing the game, but she still just pisses me off because it's just like the bratty child still lives in her, and she acted like Littlefinger this episode. So I hope her neck gets sliced. No, I'm just kidding. Dany and Jon's thing is interesting. I don't think Dany has gone full crazy. I think Dany went full crazy like season 7. This is just a continuation, and she has more. She's closer than she's ever been, so it just seems a little bit more amped up than normal. But I don't blame her. because for her entire life she's wanted one thing, and she almost had that one thing until episode 2, when her whole world came crashing down, because the man that she decided to love is now the rightful heir to the throne, and I don't. That's like you can't expect anybody to act normal in that situation, and you ex, and she is Danny is 100% correctly. He's like it can still work out, and she's like, I told you the way it can work out by not saying a word, because regardless if she trusts John, she doesn't trust Sansa, and she shouldn't trust Sansa, proven. And now that the family ties of old Stark brothers and sisters are all back together, now they want to unite and become leaders of the free world again. Like, it's fine. It just seems super forced for me a little bit. But I get it. I knew he was going to end up telling them. But it's like, I mean, Varys is one of my favorite characters. So like him, and I think one of my favorite parts of this entire episode was Tyrion and Varys having the conversation. Like, what we're talking about is treason. We're just talking. Like, we're just having a conversation. This is what needs. Maybe they can rule together. Though even though he's Anton, him, but they're like they don't. You know, Targaryens, they know that stuff. They're okay with that. Blah blah blah. So it's basically like hinting at the audience, like they're okay with it. Remember that Targaryens are fine with family members getting it on. But like, I don't know. I like the intrigue of it. I also, besides the Starbucks cup or whatever, I really enjoyed like the Danny look at John, like seeing everybody jump in and hang around him, and like he's got the backing. So it's gonna force Danny in two different scenarios. One, join with him and rule together, die because she doesn't know her own boundaries, or John's not making it, which I don't know at this hand. I don't know what's going to happen, because I think they've kept us quite calm in the last 2 episodes, especially what they were. I feel like some shit that we don't expect is going to happen, because they've made us put our guards down on like kind of what Rob's feeling, that no stakes have been met, and I think that we're like, oh, then I'm fine. I can expect these 10 characters to all make it out of there, and I feel like something's not going to go as planned. So I really enjoyed Danny and John's reactions. I didn't like Sansa's Littlefinger moment, because that's exactly what it reminded me of, especially on that bridge when she looks at Tyrion and goes, "What if there was a better one?" I'm just like, oh, here we go. But I knew it had to happen, so I'm not against it. Yeah,
that's what you call a character arc coming to a full circle.
Yes, be a dickhead that you didn't like. I hope she sells a young boy to a piece of shit person, so he can just get abused. So what great influences! What great influences! Hopefully,
she learned how to play the game from the best people at the game. They might not necessarily be good people.
Really screwed up that game along the way, and you can she should have realized that.
All right, Rob, why don't you tell us about Bran?
So there needs to be some kind of payoff for Bran in the next 2 episodes, because I didn't sit through 6 seasons of The Red Raven and Children of the Forest and Osha and Hodor and Jojen Reed and Mira Reed. I didn't sit through 6 seasons of it for Bran to take a nap during the Battle of Winterfell and then show up now to tell Sansa and Arya. Like, that is... We spent his arc, he's like, back when the show was 50 different subplots, his was the most boring, given the most amount of screen time. The screen time to boringness ratio was the highest on Bran. And am I wrong, Cody?
You're not. On rewatch, you're 100% correct.
Absolutely. So I didn't sit through 6 seasons of it to make him learn all of these super magical, important powers that we were promised were going to be really, really important in the battle against the Night King. That didn't matter at all against the Night King. Like, not even a little bit. Like, he took a nap, he warged into some crows once, and then he said thanks to Theon. And that's what he did the whole episode of Bella
You're a
Winterfell.
good man.
You're a good man, Theon. Now go die for me. Yeah. So like that, I need something more with Bran. My prediction was that after Night King was destroyed, Bran would lose the Three-Eyed Raven powers and he'd go back to being like Bran Stark. But he's not. He still has those powers. He's still an android, and we need to see something happen with that character. Something. I need to see something happen with that character, or it would have been a massive waste of screen time.
Yeah, one of the things that could happen with him, but I don't think they'll do because I don't think they will have enough foresight to play it into what's going on, is as a Three-Eyed Raven, he can impact what happens in the past. And it's something that has been going around as a theory that he was the one whispering to the Mad King to stockpile all the wildfire
Sure.
and to burn them all to
Mhm.
get everything started, right? And that it was a way to protect the whole keep from walkers, right? Well, obviously
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. And I thought, what an ingenious way to kill a bunch of walkers, because the Night King could have just gone around Winterfell, taken the South, and then the whole show would have been them going to fight to take the South back.
Yeah.
But then there's all the wildfire everywhere, and the dragon could have set it all aflame. Like, to
Yeah.
me, like, that was like really good planning ahead if that was what Bran's story was all about.
Nope.
But there's got to be some sort of payoff. I agree with you, with who he is outside of his entire arc was just to tell Jon who he was. Like, that doesn't seem enough.
Sam could have done that.
Yeah, Sam.
Alone.
Well, I mean, I don't know that Sam could have
Maybe
done that because he was so focused on all the toilets and stairs, but
you're right. You're absolutely right.
they
If the
could have
culmination
written it in Sam's story easily.
If the culmination of Bran's arc, the literal culmination of the arc is to say, hey, the Night King's after me, and to say, you're Aegon Targaryen. That's
not enough.
That is a waste of hours of screen time that they should have been spending this entire show doing something else with.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that there's definitely something that needs to happen in that story within the next episode to kind of make that pay off a little bit, because you did see, and it would be so weird to me that they set this up and made it very purposeful that he had an actual impact on the past with the scene at the Tower of Joy.
Yeah, like they built that up his entire time training with Max von Sydow. Like, they were like, oh, you have these powers to influence the past. Like, that's why the Three-Eyed Raven died,
right?
Is because he could influence the past.
Yeah,
like that's why Hodor died, because he could influence the past.
Yeah,
they spent so much time building up these amazing magical powers, and then nothing happened with them.
Yeah, I think that that would be really weird for me that they purposely made that something to focus on, but then never did anything with it. And I feel like that there's got to be something that they show in a flashback or something. Bran has been this entire time trying to push things into the direction they need to go for everything to fall into place, because if his entire arc is just, we need to be here at this exact time to kill the Night King, there's a lot of things that need to happen in order for Jon to get to the right place, to gather all the necessary people, to make sure Arya goes to where she needs to go. Like, if he's the one driving all that, that's great.
Cool. Yeah.
But they would have to deliver on that. And I just don't know that there's enough time to do that, unfortunately. It might be something that we see in the books.
Which, I completely agree. That is probably something we'll see much more of in the books. And of course, they're books. Like, they can go deeper. There's a lot that's in the books that's not in the show. There's a lot in the show that might not be.
If the books are ever written.
Oof, subtle, salty. But like, at the same time, then it should have been changed in the show to begin with.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And that's how I feel like about a lot of things. Again, I don't want to be like the asshole on the panel who's like digging at everything in the show right now. Because I did like episode 4 quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I liked episode 4 a lot. It still feels rushed, because the whole point of the Night King storyline, in my opinion, and what I think, like, the symbolism that the show was trying to go for is like the Game of Thrones, the war, the politics. It's all irrelevant. It's petty. It doesn't matter, because we should just focus on survival. And then now that that's all done, we're going to go back to politics and wars. And I don't have a problem with that. I just think that those politics and wars should be impacted or changed in some way because of the struggle of fighting against the Army of the Dead. Like, I just think that, like, if they're just going to go back to fight Cersei just like they would if, you know, Dany's army hadn't been depleted. If the only point of the Night King was to deplete Dany's army, that's a really
Yeah.
different reason to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that, like I said, I think they could have really benefited from an extra episode
Yes.
to
Yes.
increase the length of that battle, but also to give episode 4 a little bit more room to breathe, because it was, you know, the end of the battle where we got to see everyone celebrating that they were still alive, but also remembering all the dead. And that could have been an entire episode of character growth for, you know, also Cersei, because, you know, you haven't really gotten any growth from her or anything since the beginning of the season. And all of a sudden we're in it. And, you know, Cersei makes some decisions that I don't necessarily understand in this episode that maybe would have been something that they could have tried to explain a little bit in, you know, an in-between type episode instead of just throwing us into it. It just really would have benefited for me having a little bit more room to breathe in this season, because so much is going on and we need a little bit of that character growth. And the character growth that we did get with Jaime and Brienne, I really enjoyed. I know a lot of people are mad that he left her, but like, he's leaving to go kill Cersei. I mean, he is still, his character is still growing, right? Like, he's leaving to go kill Cersei. I don't think that's a surprise. I don't know why people are complaining.
We need to get a muzzle for Rob. Well, he just doesn't.
Brienne being upset that he's leaving and crying outside because he left her. I get why people are like, she's supposed to be a strong female. Why is she crying over a guy? Have you ever gotten broken up with? It hurts. She's been pining over this guy for like 5 years. Of course, she's mad about it.
The
seriously.
second person she's ever loved. The first
she
person
cried over Renly.
The first person she ever loved, Renly was killed. The second person she ever loved, the second person she was ever vulnerable to, ever in her entire life, is now leaving. And he says he's leaving because he still loves his sister.
Yeah.
That is so messed up. Jaime continues to be the most complex character in the show. And that's amazing. Because we know, really cool. We as the audience know that he is going to kill Cersei and he doesn't expect to come out of it alive. But to save Brienne, to try to hide her from the truth, he says that he's still a terrible person and he's still in love with her. And that is character depth. And I fucking love Jaime. Also, the drunken stuff was great. There just needs to be more time in the season. Sorry.
All right, Cody, let's go.
What are we talking about?
Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Brienne, Jaime.
No.
Rob's just very excited.
No, he's a pissed off 2019 Game of Thrones fan. He's just upset with everything, but it's cool. But my thing is, I loved the Jaime and Brienne stuff because the people that says she's a strong female and she shouldn't cry, regardless of breaking up stuff, it's basically she let down her guard for the first time in a long time and got broken. But I loved that they. Yes, do we know that he's going to go kill Cersei? Yes, we do know this. But what we don't know is just how the people, I wouldn't say the people that don't know, but the character development of it, where he just sits there and goes, I would kill men, women, and child to get back to Cersei because that's who he is. And like, he knows he can have a great life with who it is, like who's with him, 100%. But it doesn't matter because it's not Cersei, and that's his problem. There's also a part with Jaime in this season that I absolutely loved, and that was, unless you wanted to wait, it's the Bronn stuff.
No, we can talk about it if you want.
When he literally walks in and goes, you like, just talks, just everything, just all his stuff, and looks at Tyrion and goes, remember what you said? Yeah, if I saved your... What if anybody offered to kill you? What you'd pay double? And he was like,
"What's double? River Run."
Right there. Highgarden. And I watched episode 7, season 4, where he's Jamie and him are riding. He goes, I want that castle. And he goes, you don't want Highgarden? And he's like, of course I do. Why wouldn't I want Highgarden? And then all of a sudden they offer him Highgarden, which I love the callback to it. And he goes, listen, don't go dying. The only two people who can kill you is me. It was like two of the coolest moments when he punches Tyrion in the face. It's
really funny.
It's what I wanted, because I knew Bronn wasn't going to just go kill them. He was going to negotiate and go tell them what he wanted. And I just thought it was such a cool moment, especially that character just to pop in and be like, I'll see you when the war's done. Like, it was just a cool moment.
I saw an awesome meme of that where it was like, I'll come find you when the war is over. And then it was that picture of Pennywise from It, like waving the guy's arm. Like, Bronn after the war is over. Just, but no, the Bronn stuff, I love that they're not giving him redemption to be a good character.
Yeah.
I love it, because not every character who was once awful and did terrible things should be forgiven or should be redeemed.
Agree.
We're getting enough of that. We're going to get a Jaime redemption. We've already gotten a Theon redemption. We are getting... Maybe that's a Cody, but like we're getting these redemptions, and I don't think that every character should get that. Yeah. And I'm so glad that Bronn is one of the ones who, in season 1, when we first meet him, he fights for himself. You don't fight with honor. He did. I fight for the money, right? And that's still where he is. His character has grown without having changed.
Yeah.
Like, his character has had an arc, and his character has had experience with all these other different characters. He's interacted with so many different people, but his morals, his principles have not changed. And I think that is a great writing. That is excellent character development. That is fantastic. And I'm so glad that that is what's happening with his character.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that it's really interesting. I do worry that they're going to kill him off, because you can't have a character who's only out for themselves anymore. And I just think that the world would be a better place if he stayed in it. Like, I think that he's an interesting character to have in it, because so many of the other characters like him have either just gone pure villain or turned, to the light side, whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to mention real quick before we move on. Yeah, honestly, they killed off Rhaegal. We're going to talk about the very last scene. Is there anything else we're missing that we want to talk about before we get to that last scene?
There's one more Winterfell thing I'd like to bring up.
Sure.
So the party scene I thought was fantastic. The Gendry stuff, the Gendry proposal. That's not what I wanted to focus on, but Gendry proposal. I barely know how to use a fork. Like, that was really cool. The Tormund being drunk and being like, most people get stabbed and die. This guy gets back up. Like, that was pretty. Makuka said it on Collider Live, but everybody's got their Tormund friend who just gets drunk and spills beer over everybody. Like, everybody's got that guy. But what I want to talk about was the drinking game, and I messaged Cody about this earlier, and I may be reading too much into it, but during the way Tyrion plays his drinking game is he asks a question or makes a statement about somebody's past, and if it's true, they drink. If it's wrong, he drinks. So he said to Brienne, he said, "You're a virgin," and Podrick drank. Podrick is still a virgin. Podrick didn't do anything to the prostitutes. He sang Jenny's song for them around a fireplace. He didn't do anything. Mystery.
And he's just setting up that 3-way as his first experience.
Absolutely. I just thought that was. I know I'm reading too much into it. It's not, I know he just like.
I think so. I think he was drinking because it was awkward as heck.
Like,
yeah.
God, what if they actually ran with that?
That would be pretty funny. Okay.
You're a virgin, Podrick. I saw that and I'm like, holy wait, what? What's like? I immediately just the gears started turning, because for seasons I've been wanting to find out what Podrick did to those prostitutes, and he sang Jenny's song.
There you go. Now we know. It's not just that he's got a really big dick. All right, Cody, what else? Are we missing anything else you want to talk about before we get to the last scene? On the note of Podrick's big dick.
You're the one with the magic clock.
I will let the next transition from Kristen is Podrick's big dick, and I will just move along with it.
Hashtag. All right, yeah. The only other thing is Ghost, and honestly, Jamie's
Dumb.
goodbye to Brienne is pretty much the same thing for me as John's goodbye to Ghost. They don't want the other person following them down to King's Landing, so they do what they have to make sure they don't. Jamie makes Brienne think that he's still in love with his sister in a way that he won't be able to get away from, and John makes it seem like he doesn't love Ghost and it's just to protect them, and I'm okay with that. As much as I would like to see Ghost just completely annihilate some people, him living free in the North makes me happy as well. So we'll move on to the last scene. So this scene was obviously where Dany is going to meet with Cersei to get her to forfeit. Like, this is a weird scene to me. This whole
Dumb.
scene is like my biggest issue with this episode was this whole scene, because a lot of the decisions made, I was just like, why would they do that? And it's the same thing with the previous one, tension without payoff, right? Obviously there was a payoff, but they just building tension without a lot of explanation for the decisions made. So you had Dany meeting with Cersei to negotiate a forfeiture, which she was doing so that the people in the city would know that she tried. But who's going to tell the people in the city that she tried? Because it's certainly not going to be Cersei. And she can say, well, I tried, but are they going to believe her? No, probably not. So it's basically just to make them all feel better. At least they tried. Well, and then you have Cersei, who doesn't just kill them all, even though she very easily could. She had those big giant crossbow things. She could have killed them all without any issue at that point. Then you have Tyrion just walking up to the gates, and that's stupid. But then Cersei doesn't just kill him, and this is what I want, more
She
character
should've.
growth with Cersei. Why didn't she kill him? Like, what stopped her from killing him? They could have done something. If it's all about she doesn't want to kill her family, do something in the episode or the episode before to make us understand that. Because at the moment, it just sounds like, she made a weird choice. If it's because she thinks he needs to suffer more or see like his whole thing fail, then that's fine too. Like, that makes sense to me from a character perspective, but it wasn't something that was explained within the context. So it just seemed like a bad decision. And you kind of needed a little bit of character decision in that point. And then, you have Missandei, her death. And I'm glad they kept Grey Worm around just so you could see, how much her death did impact him. I thought that his acting in this scene pretty much saved it all for me, because you did see how much that really just killed him inside. And someone who, earlier in the show basically said, you don't turn away from death, right? Like you face it head on. He had to turn away, because she was his weakness. And that was really good character writing in a scene that had some questionable decisions for me. And then Dany's obviously just going to burn some shit down, which, I mean, it's great. It gives her the reason to do it, right? She wanted to do it anyway, but now she feels like she is vindicated in doing it. Cool. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, because this is the only part of the episode that I didn't absolutely love some of the stuff in here. So we'll shoot it with Cody first, because Rob gets too excited. Cody, why don't you let us know what you thought about this scene?
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan, especially of Game of Thrones, of having full out, fleshed out like moments. And this seemed like, hey, you know what will be a great tease before episode 5? We'll have them standing right in front of the wall leading into King's Landing. So then we know that the battle's starting next. Stupid that there's a dragon that's in closer range from a distance with the scorpions than it would be right up next to the wall. So they could have just blasted the dragon, which made no sense. They should have just done that. They should have done that instead of the Missandei thing. They should have just killed out her dragon and then made it an even battle. Why bring the dragon after you just lost one? Cersei's development makes no sense. Why she would kill I get that, but where does she gather the information that much that Missandei means that much to her? Like, there's not that much time that Cersei knows that this is her right-hand woman. This is the perfect thing to bring and to get her to be a bow. Makes no sense. For Cersei to do the bad guy thing in every classic movie, like, haha, I'll tell you my plan, or I'll stand right in front of you, but I'll let you not do anything to me, and I'll just piss you off right before you do it. Did I like Missandei's final words? Yeah, Dracarys, like, burn this bitch to the ground. Like, that's perfect. But it still made no sense. She should have killed Tyrion, which I'm completely against because I think Tyrion's the best episode. But that would have sent us all to our jaws dropping if she would have just dropped it on him and like when she held her hand, she should have just let it go. And like when he was dead, then it changes everything. It gets everybody. We would all lost our minds. I just like I knew Missandei was going to die. Like I understood they made plans after the war. That makes you are dead from this get go. But it makes me upset because Grey Worm should have died last episode and had the Missandei situation last time. Like her having that emotional reaction. Yes, it's more impactful because he doesn't show emotion often. But like it seemed, why survive then if that's what you were going to do? It seemed very cheap. It seemed like, hey, we didn't kill like enough characters. We need to just behead this one real quick. I think it would have sent more, in fact, instead of the mountain shooting her, like chopping off the head. I think if Cersei would have just pushed her off, that would have seemed way more impactful. Like, this bitch doesn't care. Like, yes, she has everybody. But I love the one part that I did like of that part was Tyrion and Cersei's not back and forth, but back and forth, because it showed every emotion. Be like, you don't want to do, like, we can change. It doesn't mean it's the end of your life. It doesn't mean this. It doesn't mean that. And you're like, oh shit, maybe he actually has a chance to convince her, which he didn't. We all knew it.
Yeah.
But it seemed very forced. And then why have the one person that's opposing you stand there right with no protection? No protection. That the Unsullied is not protection for Daenerys at that point. And her to just turn to the camera and walk off pissed, like, here we go. Like, we know it's happening. It just seems super forced and super out of place. And not that impactful for me.
Yeah.
Where it could have meant so much more. Different points.
It's another thing where if we had just a little bit more with the characters after the last battle to explain where their headspace was and everything, I feel like we could have benefited from that. My addition to what you said was, I agree with you. One of the better things about the scene was Tyrion's back and forth with Cersei, even though she didn't say much. I will like it a lot more if it pays off in the next episode, because he said clearly to anyone who could hear that she was pregnant. He should not know that because she only had relations with Euron, and now he thinks it's his kid. And she had those relations, a couple weeks ago, right? Like in the timeline of the show. So he shouldn't know that she's pregnant. If that doesn't pay off to me, that isn't right. Like, that has to pay off. Like, to me, that's how she loses Euron. He says, you're lying to me. It's not my kid. And he starts losing faith in her. And then he kind of backs out because he doesn't want to lose his life for someone who isn't really taking him seriously. Like, because his whole goal is to gain power. And she's playing him. And once he realizes that, he leaves. If that doesn't happen, I feel like that entire situation loses so much depth. And that's where I'm struggling, because I just don't know if they're going to do that or not, because everything has to be so rushed because there's only 2 episodes left. And I'm really nervous about that. So if that doesn't pay off, then that entire last scene loses a lot to me. But I have a lot of hope because it feels weird. They did a close up on her face when he said that, and she looks kind of panicked.
Mhm.
And maybe I'm reading into it because I wanted
he
her to look
does.
panicked.
I
But
hope he does.
yeah, she looked panicked at the time because of what he was saying. You know, don't screw this up for me, brother. Like, don't say that because you aren't supposed to know, because there's no way you can know. So yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. Rob, I assume you have something to say about this as well.
Not actually a ton more. I've gotten my Steam's been let go a lot. But one of my biggest gripes with Game of Thrones, actually, since like season 2, is like whenever two characters are about to have a really important conversation, the camera cuts away. And they did it like 6 times in this episode, and they've done it a lot this season, actually, in general. Like they did it when Tyrion and Bran were about to talk in episode 2. They did it twice this episode when people were learning that Jon is Aegon Targaryen. And it's not like I need to hear that information passed off when, like, if everybody's hearing the same thing, fine. But it does bother me when like actual important new information is being discussed, which happened in the Dragon Pit episode of last season when Tyrion and Cersei had a little private conversation. The end of that conversation we never saw. A lot of people, including myself, speculate that there was some kind of deal struck between Tyrion and Cersei as to why Cersei agreed to come help fight in the north and agreed to not like fight this battle right now. Tyrion did something, struck up a deal, did something involving her child, I think. And I think that's why she didn't kill him. Again, like, that's just all hypothetical, that, like, you know,
would never know
we would
they
never
didn't show
know because they didn't show it. But, like, that's all hypothetical. Like, hypothetically, that deal is off if Tyrion dies, which means her child isn't safe, which means yada, 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 right? So, like, in my head canon, it makes sense that she didn't kill him. Maybe my theory about that secret conversation is completely wrong, and she should have. I think either way, we should know. We should find out something about the end of that conversation, because that was one of the biggest cliffhangers at the end of last season. But yeah, the Missandei self-it stuff, like, cool last words. I was very surprised about that she was beheaded and not pushed. I thought Cersei was like gonna grab her arm and just like shove her off, and then Missandei was maybe gonna like hold on for a second, and Tyrion was gonna try to catch her and like whatever. But yeah, Daenerys turning and like going all huffy was kind of weird. The emotion was definitely Grey Worm in this situation. But yeah, this scene for me, I was watching it with a group of people, and as soon as it happened, one of the people I was with was like, damn it, oh god, how did they do this, damn it, and it really ruined the scene for me. So this was just like, for me personally, Missandei's death did not have a lot of weight, but that emotion of Grey Worm's performance was ruined by the person I was watching it with.
You need to find better people to watch it with.
Yeah, I know. My
Obviously,
neighbors
yeah.
are the best people. They talk a lot. But like, basically, I'm sure when I rewatch this episode, I will like it a lot more. This moment a lot more. This Grey Worm reaction a lot more. But this whole scene didn't really do a lot for me. All the questions that people have, you know, why didn't Tyrion die? Why didn't she just take out the whole army right away? Why did Missandei have to die? Blah 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 blah. I think a lot of these questions should be answered.
Yes.
Because I think they are genuine questions.
They're good questions.
They're genuine questions, and I think they should have an answer. And if they don't have an answer,
It's bad.
It's bad. Yeah. That being said, I am still very optimistic for the next 2 episodes.
No,
Episode 4 in general, I did really like. I know I've been shitting on the show a lot this episode, but I am very still optimistic about what the next 2 episodes are going to hold.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Yeah, I mean, I also have been complaining a little bit, but I actually have really, really enjoyed the last 2 episodes as well. And the complaining is only because, you know, we expect so much of what's happening. And when there are things that are left unanswered that make things seem like they don't make sense, you know, it does make it feel like it's not being written well. And so in this case, with this last scene, if they don't do some work, it's all done. So, you know, if the work hasn't already been done to make the character choices make sense, then it's a wasted opportunity. And in this case, I will agree with people who say that the writing was a little lazy, because a decision like that, you know, not killing Tyrion in that instance, you know, not just murdering everyone on that beach when you have the chance. All those decisions, unless there's a reason for it, for Cersei's character, make no sense because she has no qualms killing a sept and all surrounding area full of people to prove a point. And those are people that she she knows and cares about to some extent, and she killed them all. And she doesn't care at all about anyone on that beach. So why didn't she just kill them all? There's got to be a reason, and if they don't explain the reason, for me, that's when it gets into lazy writing. And I don't want that to happen because I really like the show and I really want everything to work out. So real quick, let's do some predictions about this next episode. What do we think is going to happen? I won't say my prediction because we'll wait. But Cody, what do you think is going to happen in episode 5?
A lot of people are gonna die.
Yes.
I think a lot of I don't know how to put this. I just think it's gonna be because they showed the scenes with Beyond, and Tyrion is in the throne room at one point. He gets there. So regardless of anybody feels, they're getting inside the walls. So I feel like it's gonna be a lot of infighting. I don't know. It's going to be. I don't think we're going to get a conclusion of Cersei this episode. I don't know because it's going to be a long episode. It's going to be a hard just battle outside to get in. But I feel like this next episode is going to be very satisfying for the audience because, again, the cast has talked about episode 5 a lot. They said, you think episode 3 is something, you need to see episode 5, and that can mean a bunch of different things. But I could see Cersei dying in this episode, but I could also see her living. But I could also see some characters that we didn't see die, didn't see coming. I could see Varys dying. I could see somebody that you just didn't predict dying, which I think is what we all kind of want, which is sad, but we all want somebody we want to be surprised. So that's what I kind of am hoping. I hope it's I hope it's a shock. That's all I want. And I hope the Hound and freaking the Mountain go at each other. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. I don't think that's a question. I think there are going to be some deaths that happen in episode 6. I don't think we're going to get every main character who is going to die in this next episode. I do expect a bigger character to die in this episode. It might be Dany. That's my theory, is that she dies in this episode. But that's
hot take.
My thought. Rob, what do you think is going to happen in episode 5?
I think the easy answer is Clegane Bowl. Mountain versus Hound. It's going to happen this episode because it makes no sense to happen in the final episode of the series. They haven't been building to it that much. So I think Arya and Hound arrive in King's Landing, Clegane's Bowl for some reason. I think a trial by combat, maybe there's going to be a reason. They're not just going to be oh, I see you on the walls, let's duke it out right now.
Stumble through the hallway and run into each other.
There's going to be a plot-centric reason for it. I hope, at least. It'd be really dumb if there wasn't. But yeah, Clegane's going to bowl. I think a really big character is going to die. Don't think it'll be Cersei yet. Don't think it'll be Jon or Daenerys yet. I think the big 3 are safe, but I think anybody else is up for grabs, and I just pray that we get somebody, we get some stakes back, and we get some more revelations. I'm very optimistic, but also very nervous.
Yeah, I will go off what you said. Clegane Bowl, I actually think is going to happen in the next episode because I think the story that they're going to set up to kill Cersei is going to be someone has to get the Mountain out of the way, and the Hound is going to be the one to do it. And that's the only way they can get to Cersei is to get the Hound. So I think that's going to be in the next episode or at the tail end of this episode. But Cersei's definitely going to be the next episode. I don't expect that she'll die in this one. Euron, I think, could potentially go down this episode or
Please.
desert her in this episode. But yeah, my hot take is that Dany's not going to survive this episode. She's going down. And I think you'll see Grey Worm probably bite the dust this episode as well. But other than that, I think that a lot of the big main characters probably won't go out until the next episode. Which maybe not be what everyone wants to hear, but for me, I think that they're gonna give just enough in this one, and that you'll see, like Jaime and Cersei go out in the next episode. Arya, I think they wrote her out of the show, with her conversation with the Hound. I'm not happy about that, but they kind of did.
She's gonna sail off into the west like Frodo at the end of Return of the King.
Yeah, I mean,
They go to the Grey Havens.
They didn't give her anything to kind of come back for, and at this point, her entire thing is just to make sure her family is protected and to cross that last name off her, the last names off her list.
Yeah, Cersei and the Mountain are the only reason she's going back to King's Landing. She's not going to kill either of them. So
yeah, I don't think so. I think she'll help kill the Mountain, but I don't think she's going to actually be the one who does it. But I think she's going to help the Hound, because she knows the only way to kill Cersei is to get the Hound out of the way. But yeah, I think that they've pretty much written Arya out of the show, which makes me a little upset, but at the same time, I get it.
It's honestly okay. She had her big character moment. She denied Gendry, and she did her part.
Yep. But yeah, so that's my thing is, if we do see Clegane, it'll be at the very end of the episode, and then we'll start out the next one with getting to Cersei. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. The siege of King's Landing has begun. How many people will burn? How many of our main characters will die? We'll have to wait a couple more days to find out. And I'm excited. I really do hope that they pay off some of these storylines, as quickly as they possibly can, so we can get into the actual meat of the episode, because there is a lot that has to happen before we get to the last episode. So let's go through and find out where you can find everyone online. Rob, where can we find you?
You can find me personally on Twitter and Letterboxd at RBRTPRKR98. That is my first and last name, no vowels plus a year. And then, of course, you can find me all over the Fan League Trivia atmosphere, Full Metal Geek Singles Champion, Fan Fight Singles Champion at Multiplex Entertainment, and Fan Fights Team Champion. I can finally add that to my plugs now. And then, of course, right here on this show at Take the Productions, Take the Throne, where the three of us and Sandy, even though we couldn't be here tonight, talk Thrones. I know I sound like a grumpy old man in the corner, and I sound very upset, but I do love Game of Thrones. I just want it to be good storytelling. So,
yeah, I'm with you, and I think that they have a lot of opportunity to finish strong, and they better finish strong. Cody's normally the grumpy old man in the corner, but today he's not. But where can we find you being a grumpy old man in the corner?
All over this trivia community, and you can find me trying to find a new client, because apparently this person that I'm representing, Robert, hates every good thing in the world. Just ask him what he feels about Iron Man. Yeah, so there's that.
I don't want to hear what you have to say about Iron Man, so we're going to move on. You can find me liking Iron Man on Twitter, Instagram, and Stardust. Smith_K10, the number, not the word. I should probably post some more things on Stardust, but oh well, never going to. You can also find me on various Take 3 reactions, which hopefully will be starting back up soon. Also hosting the Take 3 Reactor Summit, which hopefully will be starting back up again this week. And also on the show where we're going to talk about Game of Thrones, but we only have 2 more things to talk about. It's craziness. My brain cannot comprehend that the show's almost over, but it is. So, it's going to be interesting. All right, guys, that's all we got for you. Thanks for watching, and let us know in the comments what you guys think about, the episode as a whole, what you thought about all those controversies, and our predictions for season 5 or episode 5. It's going to be great. Can't wait to talk about all this next week with you guys. We hope that you guys all have a good night. Take care.